And I'm like, this is indicative of our culture, isn't it? I'd rather see because I actually do disagree with the whole GameStop thing. I actually don't think it was a very good thing, and I was going to write something on it, but then Ben Shapiro did again episode that was basically exactly what I was about to say, and I'm like, no, I'm just not going to do it. But we have a culture that would rather see the successful go down than the unsuccessful become successful, right? I think that's a fair way to characterize why Bernie Sanders is so popular and why socialism is back on the rise, because that's all socialism is. It's envy, and that's all it is. It's based on. And
Envy and resentment, I think.
right, right, and like when it comes to the hedge fund guys, it's like, well, we hate. I understand there's some bad hedge fund managers, just as there's bad engineers, there's bad police, there's bad everything. And we see movies made about a lot of these bad guys, but most of them I'd say are good, and they're serving a purpose. And to take them down just cause, like, I think it was a good check to remind them that you can't just short anything you want and expect to make a bunch of money, because it will end up losing money on this, but they won't end up losing everything. They'll take a hit and they'll recover. The people who are going to be holding all the losses are going to be the everyday people who end up buying the stock at an extraordinarily high price, and then it's just demolishes the stock price. It goes from whatever 400 back down to $6. It's going to be the everyday person, because the hedge fund managers is going to short the stock again. Like, they're going to come out with a loss, but they'll be okay. And what's going to end up happening with this whole thing is a bunch of everyday people who just weren't following it enough are going to end up buying stock and losing a lot of money. And it's going to be the everyday person. It's not going to be the hedge fund managers. So that's what I think is the problem here, is they're actually they're going to end up hurting the people they're claiming to, like. I mean, I don't really think the group is claiming to help anyone. They just wanted to screw with people, and for whatever, they can do it as long as it's legal, and nothing they did was illegal. I think the bigger story here is what Robinhood did and all of them, and I think that's the much bigger, because I mean, it's kind of a two-part story, and I don't mean to get into it too much, but I think exposing that collusion at the brokerage level by shutting down those securities is the bigger story here,
And
and
that's
is
my
going to go to
point,
court.
is
Right,
that,
right.
like, regardless of what you, um, I think you're wrong about the GameStop thing, but that's okay, because I think Ben's wrong about it.
But I
Ben
think
sees it as a prank, and the fact that he thinks it's a prank is the problem. That's
yeah.
where I talk about his blind spot. It's not a prank. It was not a prank.
Yeah, but that even goes to what I would say. My point is, it seemed like populism was driving that movement, right? We could say it's a populist movement to screw you to the elites. Okay, that screw you to the elites did not help the everyday person. It made a couple of people rich. It made a couple of people, a good. They walked away with a lot of money, but
If they all
again, it's
sold right
going
now, every single one of them would be helped by it. So how do you figure it's not helping them? Because there is no
what
them. It's each person who's holding those stocks.
right.
So if each individual investor sells and they bought the stock at $20 and they sell it at 200 or whatever,
Well, who are they selling to?
huh?
Well, who are they selling to? Like, someone's going to be holding the losses in this situation, and it's going to be the everyday person. It's not going to be the hedge fund manager or the people they're going after. That's
Maybe.
my point. Is I don't think it was more, I'm vindictive. I don't like the hedge fund people, therefore I'm going to do this. And that's why I think this is an example of how populism could be dangerous, because there's going to be some people who are going to end up buying that very, very high stock, and it's going to decrease by 2,000%, and they're
Well,
going to be holding a bunch of losses.
well, that would be their fault, if a
Yeah.
person did it right now. But, like, is it now? First off, we're painting with a broad brush a really big group of people, and we're kind of in the weeds, but also not. So I think this is important to talk about. But, um, yeah, I suppose there's probably for a big part of them, maybe even a majority, it was, I don't like these guys. Um, is it also fair to say that the reason they were saying we don't like these guys is because we think what they're doing is wrong, and so we want to, and also they have every right to do what they did. They can bet against,
Yeah.
if
100%.
if the
Nothing
Fed
they
fund
did
wants
was
to bet
illegal.
against, I know it's
For
not
sure.
illegal, but
Yeah.
but we're not even talking about legality. They have every right to, their reasoning is honestly not that important, I don't think. They could also be thinking, I'm going to sell and make a bunch of money, because they could.
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm not sure that they, are wrong to say I don't like these guys because I don't like what they're doing for, because shorting GameStop or GameStop
GameStop.
stock, um, it's like why were they doing that? A lot of times whenever they put these shorts out, they create a self-fulfilling prophecy where the stock goes down because there's a bunch of they all colluded to take out shorts against it. So it doesn't create any value, but they can hurt companies in the process because they felt like it, because they collude to short, which creates the thing in the same way that these people colluded to fight against the short. And like they could say, I don't like these guys, I don't like what they're doing. Also, I make a profit if I do this. But the broader issue that whatever motivation, that's fine. Um, the broader issue, as you said, is like I think this is it is a micro example of 2016. It so is 2016. The establishment gets rejected by the election of Donald Trump, and they have two options. They can learn from it, have some humility, have some self-awareness, and grow and say we want to listen to the complaints that created this, or they could coalesce, double down on their hubris, and say no, f you. We are the ones in charge. We don't answer to you, and that's what they did. And that's what happened with the GameStop thing. There were a bunch of normal people who said we can play this game. What, like, we can trade, we can do the same thing that you're doing, just in the opposite direction. We have every right to do this. And how did the establishment respond? They made it where they could, like, they literally rigged the game in front of their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened with Robinhood. So these guys could unload their short positions. Now I think some of them are saying, okay, we're gonna get more. We're gonna double down on the short because these guys will sell eventually, and it's a Mexican standoff at this point. But like, that's the same answer. The establishment, instead of saying, why would they be mad at us, or why would they not like this thing where we collude to drive the price of a stock down, instead of doing that, and which, by the way, doesn't add any value to anything. It doesn't add value. Like, I'm all for capitalism, but a bunch of these guys getting together and saying we're going to short this and then create that because it's got a huge short position against it, it
Yeah.
doesn't add value.
So I think we're going to disagree on this, because I don't think there's anything wrong with them short selling
I don't,
GameStop.
I
But
don't, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm
yeah,
saying that it doesn't, I don't think it adds value. Like, I'm saying they have every right to do that if they want to do that. And there are people who can say, I don't like that. I don't like
mm-hmm.
the fact that you're like, I think if these guys work together and take out a bunch of short positions, it's obvious that the market goes, okay, why are all these short positions taken out? And it hurts the price of the stock. What happens is that these hedge fund guys say, we're going to work together and short it. That's why other hedge funds aren't doing what the Reddit guys did, because they're all in on it in that way. And so for the average person to say, I want to get in on it, but in the opposite way, we'll do the same thing. I might not like what the hedge fund guys do, but they have every right to do it. That's my point. All I'm saying is that the establishment did the same thing. That's all I'm trying to get at, is they gave a big middle finger and locked to the regular people and locked them out, right?
Yeah.
And that's what just happened with the election of Joe Biden. The establishment coalesced and gave a big middle finger. What was the Time Magazine Person of the Year, if not a giant middle finger to average people? Regardless of what you think about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you could think they're great. I don't think there's anyone that would make a legitimate, honest argument who is grounded in reality that they deserve that over the first responders and healthcare workers during the biggest pandemic in a century, right? Like, that was only a middle finger to the people who voted the other way. And that's what happened with GameStop. It was like what Robinhood did and how they colluded again was only a middle finger to those people. And that's all I'm saying, is that we have to, like, whatever you think the motivation with anything, if you keep giving people a giant middle finger whenever they're like, we just want to be part of the game, we just want to have our voices heard, whether it's have our voices heard through participating in the stock market the way we want to do it, or have our voices heard at the ballot box, or have our voices heard when it comes to concerns at the ballot box, if all people keep getting is a giant middle finger, it's going to create a monster. There's already a monster on the left that's going to continue to gain ascendancy based on that, like you said, envy and resentment. And it's going to happen on the right. It's already happening on the right. And I'm worried about either just the right and the left that gaining ascendancy on the right in the same way the left is going to continue to gain ascendancy. And now we have both the left and the right being dominated by resentment, not trying to work together over ideas or trying to solve issues or argue about opinions, but just pure resentment, or something that unites both of those things in pure resentment, like French Revolution style. That's what I'm saying is whatever you think about, GameStop or election or anything, or Black Lives Matter, anything, if more and more people keep getting the middle finger from the establishment, it's not going to create a good response. That's all I'm trying to say. So